New vehicle prices are unaffordable, priced away from the average buyer. Vehicles that once were affordable by the middle class, people like you and I, the working class lunchbox Joe, could usually afford a vehicle like a Jeep like this. But now these beautiful Jeeps, in all of their great paint and extra features and nice wheels, are now priced at a place where we can't afford these anymore. $47,000, and that's risen drastically from previously $40,000 for a new car vehicle price. And now unfortunately, gorgeous Jeeps like this have gone up so much in the last few years. We're looking at Wranglers, the four-door Sport S like this, and this vehicle is now going for a $66,000 price tag. And a basic working person's truck like this, a tradesman diesel truck, it's a 1-ton single rear wheel, plastic handles on here, lots of plastic. It does carry the Cummins diesel engine, and it's a 1-ton HD, but this comes also at a significant price tag. We're looking at $88,000. An average Joe could usually get themselves into an average vehicle like this, the Jeep brand, and this is a Grand Cherokee, beautiful, slightly decked out, but it isn't necessarily a luxury vehicle, although they're trying to upscale. Definitely we're talking about the Grand Cherokee Altitude 4x4, and we see a sticker of $67,000. Out the door, you're probably paying closer to 75 grand. And here's a vehicle that I never thought I'd see in this type of price range. We have a Durango, absolutely gorgeous. This is the SRT, so obviously this is their top pop, big engine, 392. It's great, but it's not a Porsche. And yet, we're looking at the Durango SRT 392 Premium, all-wheel drive, and its stickers at $106,500. And with the Stellantis products not selling all their Rams, Jeeps, Chryslers, Dodge products, they're actually one of the strongest incentivizers on the market today. $18,500 off, lots of incentives. So even with a lot of these incentives, I look online here and I'm able to check, and obviously Ram is really hitting their incentives hard. They're trying to promote their products. As well, Dodge, $6,753 average incentives. Also vehicles like Jeep, average $6,100 incentive to knock off the price. Chrysler, also $6,252, seems to be the rough average when we're talking about the amount of incentives that they're offering up. Volkswagen's offering average of $5,200 incentives. Infinity's close to $5,800 off the purchase of a brand new 23. And Volvo's also trying to be competitive, around $5,400 off the incentive on a brand new vehicle. It means that all of these OEMs are trying to promote their products, trying to push them out the door, but people aren't buying them. Why? Because they don't have the money. I've run a quick calculator here, and if you put $5,000 down, that's basically the average consumer can probably afford or trade in their older vehicle once it's clapped out and worn out. We talk a $5,000 deposit on a $25,000 vehicle, and even applying a relatively low interest rate of 5%, the average consumer at $25,000 car with $5 grand down is still going to pay $400 a month for their car payment on 5 years, which is a typical average for a car loan period. And following the best case rule of thumb, the average household income in the United States will only allow you to spend an average of $400 a month for your car payment. Because when you take the rule of thumb into account and you consider the cost of average for inflationary increases, food, housing, rent, utilities, whether you rent or own a house, all of that incorporated, the average household income only allows for another $400 a month for a car payment. So in order not to exceed that $400 a month payment on 5 years, you can't exceed about $25,000 based on your average household income. So you think a vehicle like this is worth 25 grand? Nope, that's about 65. How about this vehicle here? Nope, that's about 75. Or how about this beautiful Rebel Night Crew by Ram? It's a 1500 e-torque there, Hemi, and yeah, it has some nice details on it, but this is the Night Crew 4x4, and it's $85,000. Far cry from the 25K you can't exceed if you're average US American household. Would you believe it? Even this little Jeep Compass right here exceeds that $25,000 target, and you won't even afford that vehicle. It wasn't long ago when the $1,000 a month car payment expectation was hovered more around a Porsche or a premium upscale BMW. But now we're in a place where people are spending a lot more. We even have some Durangos here, which clearly are a very garden variety. This is a Durango, and it's a very dressed down unit. This one here is an SXT, which means it's pretty much base. There's cloth interior, you have the small infotainment system, there's not a whole lot of features on it, doesn't even have a sunroof on it, and this is a Durango SXT all-wheel drive for $60,000. Now in 5 years, you're gonna pay $1,000 a month for that, or it's at least hovering in that territory. Could you imagine a mortgage payment for a vehicle like this that depreciates like they do? In 5 years, this is probably gonna lose about 50–60% of its value. So talk about diminishing returns on the excessive price of any vehicle. It doesn't matter if it's a Jeep, a Dodge, could be a Ford or a Toyota or a GM, they all depreciate. That's what they do. So to spend $1,000 a month or more, which is what about 10% of the modern day car loans are doing, just seems like a frivolous act. Now realistically, even the Nissan Kicks retails from a starting price of about $21,000. So you can't even get one of these vehicles and realistically afford it. While some people can stretch and make it happen, it doesn't make it right, because eventually what happens is your budget and your stress starts to stretch like an elastic band. Buyer stress levels just stretch until bang! Now, based on law of averages, the average consumer in the US is spending at least $750 a month for their car payment for vehicles like this that just fit the budget. But the worst part is, can they really afford it? I think there's a lot of people living beyond their means, but what ends up happening are a lot of the manufacturers or the dealers are able to get people into that new vehicle like this by simply adjusting the time frame on their loan period. But even in doing that, a $750 a month car payment exceeds what the average US household income actually is, and that's $400 of expendable salary to pay for that new vehicle. So it all becomes pretty clear when we start to see lots of these vehicles out on the road with all these big incentives. These OEMs are really trying to push the product, and people like the next shiny thing. These big beautiful vehicles, you get Armadas with all the technology, Pathfinders with all the tech. Even cars like the Kicks are going to be at least $25,000, $27,000 out the door to get equipped into a base little subcompact SUV or car or whatever you want to call that. And so it appears that the only people that can afford a full-size truck these days that cost $70,000, $80,000, $90,000 and beyond, such as this beautiful Nissan Titan right here, Midnight SV 4x4, absolutely gorgeous truck. Yes, people love these vehicles. They like the full-size trucks, but can they really afford them? Realistically, the only market that's really strong right now are vehicles under $15,000, whether it's new or used. And seeing as there really aren't any new vehicles under that price range, people are relegated to buy vehicles like this, maybe have some miles on them, maybe a little rough around the edges, possibly have a little rust, body parts falling off. But you know, for $6,000 or $7,000, that fits the bill for most buyers. So realistically, people love these nice shiny toys, and that's why vehicles like Wranglers have been selling like hotcakes. People love that style, like the technology, and as well like the brand. Or people like the new shiny SUV. Vehicles like this, maybe a new style, bring some new technology, and as well it's bragging rights to people you work with. But realistically, this is more like what most people, the average household income, can afford comfortably, is a vehicle like this, or an older Kia like this. Maybe a 5-year-old Mazda is more in your bill. Maybe an older Mitsubishi fits your bill. So realistically, statistics tell the whole story. Vehicles under $15,000 have been selling like hotcakes, and they're traditionally very low in inventory. Whereas otherwise, used vehicles that range from that $22,000 to $25,000 have been relatively stagnant in terms of supply, demand, and as well as pricing. And so it's great to buy a car like this if you can afford it, or even if it's a vehicle like this. Because even a Murano like this in a Platinum Edition doesn't come cheap. And this vehicle here is obviously priced at a whopping $51,000. So now you're talking about an $800 a month or $900 a month payment on 5 years. Now, some people do stretch these out to significantly longer time, and that's up to you. But remember, the depreciation curve, you're going to cross over and be underwater in no time flat. If you draw this out long enough, you wear the vehicle out, by the time your loan is done, the vehicle is almost worthless. So realistically, if you spent within your means, by the average household income, you'd be buying vehicles like this to comfortably below the poverty line. Otherwise, people often find themselves snookered, spending so much, being basically car poor and as well house poor. And that's just where this environment is headed. Now, if you can afford a Ferrari or Lamborghini, absolutely. This is about living within your means, and the cost of living crisis is taking a real toll on people that haven't seen salary increases keep up with these massive increases in base MSRP on price of brand new vehicles. And it doesn't appear that things are going to change anytime soon, because remember, with the electrification around the corner, other technology, hydrogen, all these manufacturers are looking to experiment, but they're putting money in research and development, leaving their internal combustion engine vehicles, essentially the guinea pig, and generate the income for all of these OEM. And so unfortunately, even though we're seeing some incentives and we're seeing marginal price drops on the price of new vehicles like this, it's highly unlikely that we're ever going to see any significant hits to the base bottom line sticker price of a lot of these vehicles. And with all of that said, you're definitely going to want to see that. Truck buyers are absolutely getting screwed with the escalated prices. Hope to see each and every one of you on the next one. We'll see you real soon. Bye-bye.